Ever had a car so bad it felt like it hated you personally? Mechanics see those cars every day, the kind that turn a great deal into a $5,000 surprise repair bill before you even finish your first tank of gas. And here's the scary part. A lot of those same cars are still being bought in 2025 by people who have no idea what kind of financial trap they're walking into. Hidden timing chain failures, transmissions that self-destruct out of nowhere, hybrid batteries with 5-figure replacement costs. It's all quietly waiting under the hood. Today, we're exposing the cars mechanics insist you should never buy in 2025. And trust me, the #1 disaster on this list is so infamous that even experienced techs will literally step back, sigh, and pretend they suddenly have a lunch break. Stick with me until the end, because avoiding that final car alone could save you thousands in repairs, denied warranty claims, and headaches you do not want in 2025. Alright, let's kick this off with a car that proves size has nothing to do with how fast it can empty your wallet. This little SUV was marketed as fun and practical, but mechanics say it's more like a rolling reminder that test drives don't show you everything. Let's start with the Ford Ecosport. If you've ever wondered what happens when a car is designed backwards, meet the Ford Ecosport. Mechanics don't dislike this thing, they feel sorry for anyone who buys it. This tiny SUV tries to act sporty and adventurous, but under the hood it's struggling harder than a 90s dial-up modem trying to load a photo. The 1.0-liter EcoBoost sounds clever on paper, right up until the turbo fails, the timing belt dissolves in its own oil bath, or the cooling system decides it's had enough of life. And every one of those failures? Painfully expensive, the kind of repairs that make an owner stare into the distance and rethink every decision that led them to this moment. Then comes the design quirks. That rear swing gate that opens sideways instead of upward? Mechanics call it the back-breaking feature, because loading groceries feels like an unintended gym membership. Inside, you get squeaks and rattles that show up before the first oil change, and electronics that flicker like a haunted house tour. And here's the real RPM punch to the wallet. Insurance companies aren't thrilled with the Ecosport's repair record, and parts availability is hit or miss. That means longer shop time, higher rental costs, and bills that snowball while you wait for simple parts to arrive. For a vehicle advertised as fun and capable, the only thing it's truly capable of is keeping your mechanic happily employed. Let's move on to the Fiat 500X. This cute Italian crossover can quietly eat more money than a pickup truck, and mechanics see it happen all the time. The 500X is one of those cars that looks fun, stylish, and harmless, right up until the repair bills start piling up like junk mail. The biggest problem? That timing chain. Fiat says it's long-lasting. Mechanics say otherwise. Many owners end up needing a full timing chain replacement at 40,000 miles, and it's an engine-out job. That's 14 hours of labor on a car that sometimes isn't even worth the repair bill. Nothing stings an owner more than realizing the fix costs more than the car is worth. But the fun doesn't stop there. The gas engines suffer from such aggressive carbon buildup that mechanics literally gave it a nickname, Il Disastro. You'll need intake cleaning so often you feel like you're on a maintenance subscription plan, $500 every time. Then come the overpriced parts. A thermostat housing that should cost $80? Fiat wants several hundred. And if you think you'll get the part quickly, mechanics joke that Fiat ships components by donkey. Expect long waits and even longer rental car bills. And just when you think it can't get worse, it hits you with one last punch: depreciation. The Fiat 500X holds value like a melting snowball. Many owners watch thousands evaporate in just the first couple years, turning what looked like a bargain into a financial regret. If you're shopping used in 2025, a boring Corolla or Civic suddenly looks like the most exciting financial decision you'll ever make. Let's move on to the Jeep Renegade. The Jeep Renegade is small, quirky, and actually kind of likable, right up until you try owning one. Mechanics see these roll into the shop with electrical gremlins, overheating issues, and transmission problems that make even seasoned techs sigh the moment they hear the name. The 1.4-liter multi-air engine? Think oil leaks, turbo failures, and valve problems that show up long before the warranty expires. And the infamous 9-speed automatic? Let's put it this way, it shifts like it's still loading, harsh, confused, and sometimes straight into limp mode. Suspension components wear out shockingly fast, wheel bearings hum like a baritone choir, and the interior electronics flicker like a haunted house tour. Older buyers especially feel this punch. Fiat parts pricing plus Jeep labor rates equals a repair bill that hurts your feelings. Insurance companies aren't excited either, thanks to high transmission failure rates and expensive electrical diagnostics. On the outside, it looks like a fun little off-roader. In reality, it's more of a financial off-roader, taking your wallet into terrain it was never meant to explore. Let's move on to the Dodge journey. If there were ever a vehicle mechanics wish they could legally ban, this might be it. The Dodge Journey has been haunting repair shops for what feels like decades. On the outside, it looks like an affordable family SUV, but once you actually own one, it turns into a rolling collection of repair receipts. Mechanics see Journeys show up with cooling system failures, blown head gaskets, and electrical gremlins that seem to multiply every time you lift the hood. Yes, the 3.6-liter V6 can be reliable in other vehicles, but in the Journey, it runs hotter than a July barbecue. And the cheaper 2.4-liter engine. Let's just say mechanics have seen lawnmowers with more consistent longevity. Then there's the transmission. Failure after failure, shudder after shudder, and always at the exact moment the owner says, "Hey, I think it's finally running okay." Suspension components wear out like it's their part-time job. Wheel bearings go bad on schedule, and the interior electronics behave like they were wired by someone who gave up halfway through the project. And here's the gut punch older buyers really feel: depreciation. The Journey plummets in value faster than you can say, "check engine light." You think you scored a deal until the third tow truck shows up and you realize you could have bought a bulletproof Toyota instead. If your goal for 2025 is to avoid becoming best friends with your mechanic, don't even take a Dodge Journey for a test drive. It's not worth the risk. Let's continue with the Volkswagen T-Roc. This is the SUV that made some lifelong Volkswagen fans switch brands. And when a die-hard Volkswagen guy throws in the towel, you know something went very, very wrong. The trouble starts with the 1.5 TSY's famous cylinder deactivation system, a feature designed to save fuel, but in the real world it just creates oil consumption, rough running, and long-term engine damage. Mechanics say once these engines start burning oil, it's only a matter of time before the owner starts burning money. Then comes the DSG transmission. When it works, it's fantastic. When it doesn't, you're looking at mechatronic failures, clutch pack replacements, and shifting behavior that feels like the transmission is having an identity crisis. Mechanics have done so many DSG repairs they joke they could do them blindfolded. Not that they want to. And let's not forget the water pump. This little part fails so often that techs keep them stocked like printer paper. When the water pump goes, overheating follows. And if you miss the warning signs, you're suddenly pricing out full engine replacements on a car that was supposed to be affordable to own. These Volkswagen compact SUVs are cheap to lease, but brutally expensive to own out of warranty. Extended warranties might save you, but most mechanics will tell you it's smarter to just buy a brand with fewer built-in problems. Let's continue with the Nissan Qashqai. The Qashqai is what happens when an automaker says, "Why stop at one system that can fail? Let's add two more." The mild hybrid version is already trouble. That little belt-driven starter generator, mechanics see them failing at ridiculously low mileage, leaving owners stranded and staring at repair bills that feel way too high for such a simple part. Then comes the e-Power Series hybrid, and this is where things go off the rails. The gas engine runs at maximum stress like it's trying to win a race no one asked it to join. The inverter overheats, the electric motor gets tired fast, and the whole system ages like milk on a hot dashboard. And just when you think the electronics couldn't get worse, the driver assist features start behaving like they're haunted. Random braking on the highway, lane keeping that ping-pongs the car between stripes, and adaptive cruise that decides, yeah, let's accelerate toward that guy. Mechanics have heard every version of the story, and each one sounds more stressful than the last. These tech-heavy SUVs don't just cost more to fix, they can also raise your insurance rates thanks to liability risks from unpredictable safety systems. And once you start doing suspension rebuilds every other year, the cheap crossover suddenly becomes anything but. Let's move on to the Jeep Compass. This SUV looks ready for adventure, if the adventure is straight to the service department. Mechanics say the Compass is one of those vehicles that acts tough on the outside, but falls apart faster than a folding chair at a tailgate. Owners come in complaining about everything from mysterious oil losses to valve train noise that sounds like the engine is asking for early retirement. And when it all goes wrong, many end up needing full engine replacements long before they ever hit real off-road mileage. The automatic transmission doesn't help its case either. Techs see the same pattern: violent shifting, sudden failures, and repeat visits that cost more than any rugged SUV should. It's the kind of transmission that gives even seasoned mechanics a headache before they've had their morning coffee. And the build quality? Let's just say it's generous to call it inconsistent. Door handles breaking, window regulators quitting, paint fading, and on diesel versions, the DPF clogs so often you'd swear it's on a monthly subscription plan. Now here's the irony. Jeep sells the Compass with a bold, adventurous image, but for most owners, the only real obstacle they'll conquer is figuring out how to pay for the next repair. All those off-road systems? More weight, more complexity, more things to break, even if you never leave the pavement. Alright, time for the big one. The car mechanics say is the absolute worst buy of 2025. If everything before this sounded bad, this final SUV makes them look like minor inconveniences. Let's talk about the Range Rover Evoque. Small luxury SUV, giant repair invoices. That's the Evoque in one sentence, and mechanics across the board agree this is the kind of premium experience you only enjoy if you also enjoy writing large checks. The biggest problem? That infamous timing chain stretch, which doesn't just stretch, it destroys engines. Mechanics see Evoques come in sounding like a toolbox in a washing machine, and the next stop is usually a multi-thousand-dollar engine teardown. And no, these aren't high-mileage survivors. Some fail shockingly early. Then, you've got the transmission. Land Rover pushes endless software updates, but mechanics will tell you, the updates fix nothing. Shifting stays rough, failures keep happening, and the bill keeps growing. But the real curveball is the water intrusion. The Evoque leaks like an old fishing boat. Sunroof drains, door seals, you name it. Once the water hits the electronics, modules corrode, sensors fail, and owners start hearing numbers like $2,000, $2,500, and not covered. Some insurance companies literally exclude water damage on used Evoques because they've seen the pattern too many times. And this is where the RPM angle hits hard. Luxury image means nothing if you're constantly battling luxury-sized repairs, higher insurance premiums, and electronics that behave like they're afraid of the rain. And that wraps up the 8 cars mechanics are practically begging you not to buy in 2025. After years of working with these vehicles and watching owners get blindsided by unexpected repairs, one thing has become very clear. A car doesn't have to be old or cheap to be an absolute financial disaster. Some of the models on this list look amazing on the test drive, come loaded with tech, or even wear a fancy luxury badge. But once the timing chains stretch, the transmissions slip, the hybrid batteries overheat, or the electronics start flickering like a bad horror movie, that great deal turns into a repair bill big enough to ruin a vacation. The harsh reality is that extended warranties don't always save you. Insurance companies can refuse coverage when the repair history gets ugly, and depreciation can wipe out your investment faster than the engine fails. In 2025, the difference between a smart purchase and a money pit often comes down to long-term reliability, real-world repair data, and honest feedback from the mechanics who work on these cars every day. So, if you're shopping for your next vehicle, take a step back from the flashy ads and the big promises. Look at what these cars really cost to keep on the road. Research insurance rates, resale value, and 5-year ownership costs. Because the smartest money isn't buying the SUV with the biggest touchscreen or the trendiest badge. It's buying the one that stays out of the shop and doesn't drain your savings with surprise repairs. And here's something most car buyers never hear until it's too late. The price you pay at the dealership is only the opening bid. The real cost of owning a car shows up later, in repair shops, on insurance bills, and in resale value. I've seen people buy what they thought was a safe choice, only to be hit with a $3,000 water pump, a $6,000 transmission, or a hybrid battery that costs more than what the car is worth. It's heartbreaking, because most of these surprises could have been avoided with a little research and by asking the right questions. Cars are supposed to make life easier, not turn into a second mortgage. In 2025, protecting your money matters more than ever, and the wrong car can set you back years. That's why videos like this exist, not to scare you, but to give you an edge in a market that's more confusing than ever. But the good news is this: there are cars out there that can take a beating, run for 200,000 miles, and won't bankrupt you with surprise repairs. And in my next videos, I'll show you the models mechanics actually recommend, the ones with strong resale value, low insurance costs, and proven reliability year after year. Which of these cars surprised you the most? Have you ever owned one of these mechanical nightmares? What's the biggest repair bill you've ever had to swallow? Share your story in the comments. I read everyone. And if this video helped you avoid a financial disaster or a bad purchase in 2025, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications.